Hello, 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 everyone. This is Dr. Garrett Smith, also known as the Nutrition Detective around these here YouTube parts, and we are here with a fun show for you guys today. We are going to go over headaches, and that's going to obviously include migraines. Migraines, headaches, you can search for them in the literature. You don't tend to find much stuff on just headaches because medicine seems to be like, headaches are just, I saw one paper, they said, they're just disruptive and uncomfortable. I was like, headaches suck, right? Those of you who have really bad headaches know. So we're going to be covering that stuff, and then we will get into the questions. So one of the first things we're going to go, well, one of the first things I want to go over is if you are interested in further information from me and the help you can get from the other 2,000 people inside the Nutrition Detective Network, go to members.nutritiondetective.com. If you want to work with me or Nathan, then go to nutritiondetective.com, and that's where you can find out how to work with us doing the testing, blood testing, hair testing, and included follow-up on topics like we're going to talk about today, like vitamin A toxicity and copper toxicity and magnesium deficiency and zinc deficiency and selenium deficiency. And one of the big things that vitamin A screws up, which is potassium flow in the body. Okay, so we'll get into that in a second. So there are some people out in the vitamin A toxicity world who don't seem to understand one of the big things that vitamin A does, and one of the big things that copper does, is it messes with your potassium. So we're going to start off going into that. So Joe, if we can go to that other screen. We're working on, I got to get the earpiece so I can have Joe on my cell phone talking into my ear, and I need to make sure to get the Agent Smith curly earpiece, because I love the irony of it. Oh, hold on. Okay, Joe, we got to figure out something with this GLASP. The GLASP is the highlighter that Joe had me get, and it used to work great, and all of a sudden now it's not working, Joe. This just happened today. It just happened today. Hold on. Joe, stop sharing my screen for a sec. Let me get into this. This is just, I was just logged in this morning and it logs me out. I don't even know what is going on. GLASP all of a sudden went AWOL on me. Hold on, don't go back to it yet. There we go. Wait. Yeah, you can go back to it now. It's not doing it. There we go. Let's get rid of that. Oh, forget it. My goodness. Let's see if we can't get it today, though. There we go. Retinoic acid blocks potassium channels in human lymphocytes. Retinoic acid is what they call the active form of vitamin A. Anybody who tells you that you need retinol and they're saying that that's the form of vitamin A that you need, first of all, you don't need any of it. Second of all, everybody in the research says that retinoic acid is the active form of vitamin A. So it is the most toxic form of vitamin A. You do not need it. It is the same thing as you'll read about as retin-A, tretinoin. 13-cis retinoic acid is isotretinoin. That's Accutane. This is the stuff that they say you need. They're trying to say you need these like super deadly, same thing as drugs, tretinoin and isotretinoin. So retinoic acid is all trans retinoic acid. It blocks potassium channels in your white blood cells. What does this mean in terms of blocking potassium channels? Okay, you're supposed to have high amounts of potassium inside the cell and lower amounts outside the cell. And you have the sodium-potassium pump that keeps those moving in the right direction, right? You have more sodium outside the cell, more potassium inside the cell. And through the cell doing its thing, I'm oversimplifying, but potassium will move out and sodium will move in. And then you have a pump that moves them back, okay? Vitamin A is blocking the potassium channels. So what this means is you can't get the potassium back into the cell. So I just want you to remember this. So you can functionally, what we're simplifying this to is you can get potassium deficiency symptoms inside the cells, even though there's not a lack of potassium. Are you following me? you don't have the potassium where it's supposed to be, right? You can have all the calcium you want in your body, but if it's in your joints and your brain and your heart and your muscles, you're going to be stiff and heart attacks and strokes and Alzheimer's and all that stuff. And you're not going to have, and your bones don't necessarily get it. So just having tons of stuff, this is why modern medicine, with giving tons of calcium supplements and vitamin D supplements and vitamin A, they're not fixing osteoporosis at all. They're making it worse. But if you look at the body, there's more calcium in it. That doesn't mean it's good. Okay. So let's go into the next one. Evidence of decreased activity in intermediate conductance calcium-activated potassium channels during retinoic acid-induced differentiation in motor neuron-like. And
we've got the wrong page.
This is
maybe at the top of that new page, there should be a thing that says share. You're sharing the window differently.
Okay, I don't know what happened with all this, Joe. Something happened over the weekend. I don't know if it's I don't know if it's a Microsoft update or something they did, but something. It's like in the Matrix. They changed something.
When you shared it, I don't see the URL bar at the top. So you're probably sharing the window instead of the screen.
I'm hitting view tab. I don't even know what happened to this. Anyway.
It looks good.
Let me put the link in the chat. Something really changed
for the last one
over the weekend. Here.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, thank you. This is not going like I'd like it, but whatever. I forgot to put the link for the first one, and here's the link for the second one. So basically, let's just get this. When they added retinoic, when they were putting retinoic acid on cells, they saw decreased activity in the potassium channels. Okay. You need to move potassium where it's supposed to go. So let's just go to the next one then. So this is what will confuse people. High levels of,
we're still on the last one. So at the top of the new screen, there's that share thing or something. There you go.
Unreal that I have to hit a button now to share every tab. Unreal. Anyway, thanks, Joe. So this is what I'm talking about with the potassium pumps. And now it's not doing I swear, we're just going to start this whole thing over, but we'll just keep going. Computers, right? High levels of extracellular potassium and its correlates after severe head injury. Relationship to high intracranial pressure. Okay, high intracranial pressure. This is a common thing that's known with vitamin A toxicity, folks. They call it idiopathic intracranial hypertension. Idio, which is funny that it's the same as idiot. Idiopathic means they don't know what causes it. They don't know the cause of it. Intracranial, inside your cranium, inside your skull. Pressure, too much pressure. So it's like high blood pressure, but it's in your central nervous system. And where do you feel it? You feel it inside your head. Maybe you guys have noticed you see a lot of kids with really big craniums these days. You think too much pressure could cause that? You think there's a vitamin A toxicity epidemic? Maybe. So, high levels of extracellular potassium, maybe because the potassium pump is broken. Okay? So, that's all we're going to go into that. Well, here, let's just do this. Reduced cerebral blood flow was also significantly correlated with increased levels of dialysate potassium. That's the potassium outside the cell. Okay? So now let's try this again. Let's go to the new one. So remember, we talked about potassium and outside the cell. The potassium channels are damaged by vitamin A. Too much potassium outside the cell. We're seeing a connection between high intracranial pressure and too much potassium outside the cell. Are you seeing where I'm going with this? Hopefully you are. Now, we're going to go into this one. This is a quick search. This is just a quick search of PubMed for acetazolamide and hypervitaminosis A. What do they use acetazolamide in with hypervitaminosis A? They use acetazolamide to help with the headache, the idiopathic intracranial hypertension that is a common thing with vitamin A toxicity. Acute hypervitaminosis A in a young lady, what did they give it? Patient improved after giving acetazolamide. Where are we talking about? The mainstays of medical treatment for idiopathic intracranial hypertension, reduced sodium weight reduction program, and acetazolamide. This one they said they discontinued vitamin A and gave acetazolamide. Okay, so acetazolamide, we're just establishing, this is just, I'm not recommending acetazolamide for vitamin A toxicity by any means, but we're going to get into acetazolamide and potassium. Let's go. So if you guys haven't seen the big post I did on my forum, actually, why don't we go find that while we're at it? Let me go to this. Let's go find autoimmune. I want to show you, I do a big autoimmunity post on how autoimmunity is vitamin A toxicity. Okay. So go read that post when you have the chance. So now that once you do that one, oh, Joe, I didn't hear, share this. So this is the one. It's right here, this one. But I just put the direct link to it in the chat. Okay. So vitamin A toxicity is one of the absolute root causes of autoimmunity, folks. So now we have here potassium channelopathy, as in a disease of the potassium channels. Autoimmune voltage-gated potassium channelopathies. Wow, weird how these are all connected, right? Migraine and two-pore domain potassium channels.
There you go.
Yeah, I got it. the GLASP is still, I got to do the GLASP like every time separately. We got to figure this out in between. This just started this morning. So obviously they're connecting migraine and two-pore domain channelopathies. Okay, just more potassium channels. Okay. I don't think I had much on this one. We had that. And then, did I put that link up there? I didn't. So many things to click today because things aren't working. Now, migraine with aura. A vicious cycle perpetuated by potassium-induced vasoconstriction. Where do you think that potassium is now, folks? Do you think it's inside the cell or outside the cell? Now, somebody could read this and go, but it looks like too much potassium. No, it's too much potassium in the wrong place. Okay? Did I put this link up there? I don't even remember. I'm just clicking and clicking and clicking and clicking. Now, let's do... Okay. So now let's just do a fun one. So what does acetazolamide do then, class? In vivo evidence for potassium channel opening properties of acetazolamide in the human vasculature. Okay. So have we established a connection between vitamin A damaging, closing potassium channels, vitamin A causing increased idiopathic intracranial hypertension? They give acetazolamide for migraine or for idiopathic intracranial hypertension, the headaches of it. And then what does acetazolamide do? It opens up the potassium channels that vitamin A toxicity closed. Okay. And while we're here, just since we talk about vitamin D toxicity a lot, some people don't want to believe me that vitamin D depletes potassium, but here let's just go to the simple paper. Renal potassium through the kidneys. Renal potassium wasting induced by vitamin D. Here's a weird pattern that we'll see over and over again, is that when calcium goes up, potassium goes down. Vitamin A increases. One of the things that goes along with vitamin A toxicity is hypercalcemia in the blood. And then what does vitamin A do to potassium channels and the whole potassium thing? It screws up potassium. Vitamin D will raise calcium in your blood, and it wastes potassium out through your kidneys at the very least. Okay. Gosh, when we start thinking about headaches, are you seeing where we work on less? We don't take vitamin D supplements. We reduce or minimize vitamin A intake. And one of the biggest things, so I'm going to tell you folks this. This is for anybody listening, whether you're on the program or not. Potassium in foods or supplements can be used. You can force potassium through, like osmotically through the channels that are blocked. Now, if you take that advice and you go and you hurt yourself with potassium, don't say it was my fault. I have an entire section of articles inside the Love Your Liver program about potassium. And I'm going to tell you right now, potassium with foods is the best. What am I going to do? Right click here. Oh, Joe figured it out. Thanks, Joe. Joe's sending me a message right now because I can't see the private chat anymore, Joe. Anyway, that's why I got to get my Agent Smith earpiece. So where was I? Anyway, calcium goes up and potassium goes down. This is disease in a nutshell. And we do things that don't raise calcium purposely out in the places where it's not supposed to be. We reduce or minimize vitamin A. We don't take vitamin D supplements. We're going to fix copper toxicity. Funny thing that copper toxicity is associated with headaches too. So we're going to get into that next. If there was something else I was going to explain there, I already forgot it. So let me find the copper thread. So here we have commonalities between copper neurotoxicity and Alzheimer's disease. Okay, so while we're here, where's my form? There it is. Oh, wait, that was the wrong one. Let me get my forum post again. One of my favorite, biggest articles on Alzheimer's disease and vitamin A toxicity. So that's just one on vitamin A toxicity and Alzheimer's, okay? So then they go and they find commonalities between copper neurotoxicity and Alzheimer's disease. The funny thing is the people pushing copper are also often the people pushing vitamin A, and they say, you can get these things, they're super high in liver. And I'm going, yeah, you don't want that. That's really not good. I keep showing connections between like dementia and copper, and dementia and vitamin A, and Alzheimer's and vitamin A, and copper and Alzheimer's. It's so obvious in the research. I just posted on Twitter this morning showing that the higher your dietary intake of copper and saturated fats, the more dementia, and I believe it was Alzheimer's, was connected to. So go ahead and, you're being duped into losing your mind by these people that want to ruin your liver. So one of the things that they do in here that they talk about, okay. Let's see. Will this work again? Will this work now? There we go. Okay, Joe fixed it. Joe's great. Joe's the man. So let me put this link in here. Joe, you can show my screen if it's going.
I need you to show it again.
Oh my goodness.
Just do it right this time. You did the individual window instead of the whole screen. I think that's what you meant to do.
Ta-da. Anyway. I'll be a smart boy someday. Okay, so let's just read this. This is in the copper toxicity and Alzheimer's disease. Levels exceeding this range that they say are normal are considered toxic and can lead to a buildup of copper. Wait. I just want, people are like, copper doesn't build up in the body. You don't store copper. You don't accumulate copper. They say the same stuff about vitamin A. They're wrong. It's not hard to find that they're wrong. Okay, it's considered toxic and can lead to a buildup. Do you understand we understand what a buildup means here? We understand simple words and their meanings here. Buildup of copper in the kidneys, brain, and eyes. This causes a burden on the body as it may result in possible liver cell death, permanent nerve damage, oxidative stress, and reduced cell proliferation. I do believe the nerve damage can be fixed. We see people with nerve issues get better. You can remove the copper and remove the problem. And reduce cell proliferation. A lethal dose of copper ranges from 10 to 20 grams. You see these people in like these revolution copper groups who have bags of blue copper sulfate. And they're taking like, ungodly amounts of that stuff a day. It's going to end poorly. They use copper sulfate in pools and spas as a fungicide. Oh, we'll get into that too. Common signs of copper toxicity. Common signs of copper toxicity. What's the number one? Include, but are not limited to, headaches, bloody vomit, diarrhea, and black stools. Huh. Sounds like something a toxic metal would do, doesn't it? Yeah, that's all we need on that one. Let's go into this one. Do I need to share this one again? Okay, so we're in it. Okay, so let's go back up here to the top. Health effects of excess copper. These people taking copper sulfate. Copper sulfate, sulfur slows your detox systems. Sulfur slows your ALDH, uses up your B1, has you make more aldehydes in your body. Oh, like, I don't know, retinaldehyde. You can't clear it because your ALDH slows down from sulfur. And then you have copper, which is a toxic metal. Following acute ingestion of copper salts, example as copper sulfate, in amounts that exceed approximately 1 gram, systemic effects are generally observed. The effects include gastrointestinal mucosal ulcerations and bleeding, acute hemolysis and hemoglobinuria, hepatic necrosis, liver tissue death. With jaundice, too much bile in the blood, amazing. Bilirubin. Nephropathy, that's your kidneys dying. With azotemia and oliguria, cardiotoxicity, there's your heart dying. With hypotension, so you folks with low blood pressure and you can't seem to get it up. Tachycardia, that's a C. That's fast heart rate, which often happens to people with copper toxicity when they go to bed. If you ever go to bed and you're feeling like you can't sleep and you're awake and your heart's pounding in your chest, that's a classic copper toxicity symptom. And tachypnea and CNS manifestations, central nervous system, including dizziness, headache, convulsions, lethargy, stupor, and coma. Just remember, it doesn't take much to give people a headache, right? Somebody just has too many drinks one night and the next morning they wake up and they've got a headache. It doesn't take that much toxicity to give you a headache. Okay? I don't remember if there was anything more on this one. Oh, here we go. I want you to understand. So when I talk about copper in your water pipes, you have, here in America and in most other places, you at the minimum have copper water pipes going in and out of your water heater. You may have plastic water pipes pegged the rest of your house, but they almost always put copper going in and out of your water heater. So almost nobody escapes this. Okay? I want you to understand when I'm saying this, and you say, but I filter my water, Dr. Smith. I use distilled water or I use reverse osmosis, and that should take the copper out. Okay? We use, as an example, we use topical magnesium a lot because it's super well absorbed. So what happens when you have topical copper sulfate? Okay. Acute copper toxicosis manifested by hemolysis. That's red blood cells just basically dying. Headache, febrile reactions, feverish, which goes with bile, prostration, and GI symptoms, gastrointestinal symptoms, was observed in one child after a solution containing copper sulfate was applied to burned skin during a debridement procedure. Topical copper. In 2 hemodialysis patients, so they've already got kidney problems, right? And they're getting their blood cleaned via dialysis machine. Copper intoxication was characterized by marked hemolysis, acidosis, methemoglobinemia, hypoglycemia, vomiting, epigastric pain, diarrhea, and headache. Which do you think probably started first? With fatal outcome. Oh, wait, let's do this one. I didn't even see this one. For those of you, oh my gosh, share this with your friends drinking out of copper cups. Wiley, 1957, described one episode of acute GI symptoms, gut symptoms, associated with a presumed exposure to copper as a result of mixing alcoholic drinks in a copper-contaminated cocktail shaker. Copper is a toxic metal, folks. Do not get misled by the people who think it's going to save your health. Okay? Copper drink shaker. I mean, people, Moscow mules, right? They put them in copper cups. I posted a thing on Twitter the other day about somebody putting a piece of copper pipe in their chickens' drinking water. So it would keep stuff from growing in the chickens' drinking water because chickens are filthy animals. But the water stayed clear. So now what that person's doing, they're poisoning their chickens and their chickens' eggs with copper. And they're going to eat the chicken and they're going to eat the eggs. It's not going to end well. But the water stayed clear because nothing grows around copper. It was like what somebody said about, they were like, when they were talking about fruits and vegetables at the store, they said the stuff that's there that doesn't attract bugs, they're like, I don't want this. It's not like, the bugs want the stuff that has nutrients in it. They don't want the stuff that doesn't have the nutrients and that potentially makes more pesticides naturally. Why do people grow nightshades so much? Because it's easiest to keep the pests away from them. Tomatoes, potatoes, peppers. If you haven't figured out yet that peppers have one of the most potent biowarfare agents in them, that's why the cops have pepper spray. That's why people eat chicken wings with crazy hot sauce on them so they can watch their painful reactions. It's biowarfare. And yet mainstream will tell you it's anti-inflammatory and it's good for you. They're trying to kill you. Okay. And then they'll give it to you in a copper cup if you're really lucky. So we got the copper. Now, that's the toxicity stuff. I'm going to say something. Normally, I would go into bile, serum bile, toxic bile acids, secondary bile acids, bilirubin, liver enzyme. Do you want to know how little research has been done on the liver's connection and the bile's connection to headaches and migraines? I could hardly find anything. Weird that that's kind of been ignored. So let's get into, there's zinc. Let's do magnesium first. Which one is this one? Hold on, Joe. Before I share it, let me find it. That's vitamin A. That's potassium. This is magnesium. Okay, so now we're on the magnesium one. Okay, now we can show it. So here we go. Serum and salivary magnesium levels in migraine and tension type headache results in a group of adult patients. So what I'm going to tell you, I have a video on this channel about how vitamin A depletes magnesium. Okay, so if somebody wants to post that link to the video, go ahead. Vitamin A depletes magnesium inside the cells. So, and we've shown that vitamin A raises calcium in the blood. Well, that would normally deplete magnesium. Just that's the way calcium and magnesium works. Excessive calcium will deplete magnesium. And vitamin D, excess calcium will raise calcium, and that will deplete magnesium. And everybody's diet is basically magnesium deficient because the farmers don't have to add magnesium to the plants to make the plants grow well enough. So, what does the magnesium look like in migraine sufferers? Migraine sufferers with and without aura and tension type headache had significantly lower levels of serum blood and salivary magnesium concentrations in the enterical periods than a group of healthy young individuals. I'm guessing enterical means between headaches. Let me just go look that up. This is not, they're not showing, I'm going to guess. I'm going to assume that it means between headaches because you'll see in the next thing, it'll make sense. Serum magnesium levels tended to be further reduced during attacks in all patient groups study. A statistically significant decrease in salivary magnesium levels was evident only for migraine patients with aura. So aura would be an even worse magnesium deficiency. So that's magnesium levels for adults. We use lots of topical magnesium on the program. Now we're looking at kids. Serum and salivary magnesium levels in migraine results in a group of juvenile patients. In comparison with normal subjects, migraine patients had lower levels of serum and salivary magnesium interictally, so between attacks. Serum magnesium levels tended to be further reduced during attacks. With respect to the values of interictal periods, we observed a reduction, not statistically significant, of salivary magnesium levels for both migraine groups. And there'll be the people out there, we need more research on magnesium and headaches. Okay. Well, here's your more research. What paper was this? Headaches and magnesium. Mechanisms, bioavailability, therapeutic efficacy, and potential advantage of magnesium pidolate. I've never even heard of that. We need more research. A large body of literature suggests a relationship between magnesium deficiency and mild and moderate tension type headaches and migraines. And there's 9 references there. You're welcome to go check them. Okay. Wait, let's do this. Is the best thing. Magnesium for headaches offers an alternative to traditional medication that brings with it issues such as addiction and side effects. I mean, you need magnesium to live. So you're never addicted to it. You just need it to live. Magnesium, with its relative lack of side effects, is particularly compelling for use in groups in which side effects are less well tolerated, such as children, pregnant women, and the elderly. So if you're a normal adult, you can just have your addiction and side effects to your headache meds, because we don't want to take too much money away from the pharma cartel, I didn't even look up, let me just go do this. So what I like to do on a lot of these is, if I can, I haven't been sharing the links. Here, I'll share these. Did I do it on the copper ones? See, we got to figure this out. This is terrible. Here's that one.
Pierre was sharing some of the last ones. We're pretty much caught up.
Okay.
But the last one you did.
The very last one. Thanks, Pierre. Today's a little bit of, as I would call it, a cluster. Trying to curse less, so I'll just call it a cluster. Let's just do this. So what I like to do, magnesium supplementation. Well, let's just do supplement Migraine PubMed. Let's go. So what I like to do is if we show that there's a pattern of magnesium deficient, let's say we see magnesium deficiency and headaches, they're saying there's a pattern of magnesium deficiency, and then we can show that magnesium supplementation helps, we can be pretty sure, that now we're not always going to find it, because does the pharma cartel really want to help? They were worried about, we might not have our addiction and side effects. So, well, this is not really, let's see. Let's go do this one. This one's saying it's not strong enough. It's limited at this time. So they want more research. That's always the cry, right? More research. Let's look at IV Mag. Well, intravenous magnesium reduces acute migraine attacks within 15 to 45 minutes. 120 minutes and 24 hours after the initial infusion, and oral magnesium alleviates the frequency and intensity of migraine. So we see a pattern of magnesium deficiency in headaches and migraine, and we see that they can basically shut down a migraine within 15 to 45 minutes of doing IV magnesium. Okay, so we can pretty much put that one to bed. Let's see. Let me get the next one. So we did magnesium. Let's go do, this one is selenium. I did potassium. Let's go do selenium then. So this is dietary selenium intake. Oh wait, I should do this one first. Wait, let's do this. Let's do this one first. Let's just destroy the antioxidant theory and replace it with aldehyde toxicity and selenium deficiency, even though they say selenium is an antioxidant. Do we care about that? No, we don't care. The serum oxidative stress biomarkers and selenium levels in a group of migraine patients compared with healthy controls, a case control study. So one of the things we're going to talk about here, selenium, you need selenium to run your aldehyde dehydrogenase. Aldehyde dehydrogenase is what breaks down aldehydes, including retinaldehyde, formaldehyde, acetaldehyde, and malondialdehyde. Okay? Malondialdehyde is what they never talk about when they talk about avoiding seed oils and reducing your PUFAs. So reducing your PUFAs is an effort to reduce your malondialdehyde production in the body. That's what you oxidize PUFAs into. It's one of the lipid peroxidation products. So when you get to see these numbers, it gets to be pretty impressive. Here we go. Serum levels of selenium, malondialdehyde, and total antioxidant content were measured. Let me get this link in here. Via biochemical methods. Those sounds fancy. Migraine patients had significantly lower selenium levels and a significantly higher malondialdehyde level. Wait till you see how significant compared to healthy participants. Although serum total antioxidant content levels were not significantly different between migraine patients rather than healthy subjects. Antioxidant theory is BS. It's garbage. Throw it out the window. Individuals in the lowest quartile of selenium levels, listen to this, the lowest selenium people were about 11 times more likely to have a migraine than those in the highest quartile. Gosh, does that sound important? Besides being in the highest quartile of the serum malondialdehyde level, the odds of having migraine increases 15.4 times compared with the lowest quartile. And then the kicker at the end. Let's just put antioxidant theory in the grave and put dirt on it. No significant association was found between total antioxidant content and migraine. So 11 times more if you have a selenium deficiency risk of migraine. And the people with migraines had 15 times, the highest ones had 15 times more malondialdehyde. And you need selenium to run your aldehyde dehydrogenase. So that was measuring it. Now, if we go to intake, association between selenium intake, so like dietary intake, and migraine, a nationwide cross-sectional study. I believe I'm assuming that this is, oh, here it is, in China. This is in China. I was looking at the names, and I was making an assumption. Here we go. Where the odds of migraine decreased with increasing selenium intake before the inflection point, and no statistically significant relationship was found after the inflection point. So there's a certain, but what I'm taking this as is there's a certain amount of selenium that you need. I don't remember if I put this link in there. There's a certain amount of selenium that you need, and getting more than that doesn't help. Crazy idea, right? It'd be like water. If you are hydrated, you're okay. And overhydrating yourself like they tell you to do in P Clear is not helpful and may actually be bad for you. This is not, most of us, the way our brains function, we should get this, right? You need a certain amount, and over that, it's not helpful. This is the way essential nutrients work. Just like oil in your car. Like, you don't try to you're not like, well, I'm going to have my car super lubed and put more oil in it than it needs. No, you don't do that. That doesn't make sense. So you put the oil in it that it needs. And you don't put more. Amazing. Nutrients are the same way. But if you have a deficiency, things don't run right at all because that's essential. Okay. So that was selenium. Now let's see. Do we have anything else? Let's see. This was, I'll get to that in a second. I think we got one more. Oh, let's do the heavy metals first. Is that the heavy metals? Yes. Let's go into this one. So, of course, some people out there will be like, oh, toxic metals are super bad. And of course they are. Nobody's ignoring toxic metals. Of course they're bad. So here are the levels of trace elements and heavy metals in patients with acute migraine headache. We got here. This was a hair test, I believe. Let's see. I'm pretty sure this is a hair test. Usually when they talk about atomic absorption spectrophotometry, they're talking about hair tests. Anyway, here we go. Cadmium, iron. Iron. Vitamin A increases iron absorption. Manganese, which causes liver problems. And lead levels were significantly elevated in the patients compared to the controls. Now, if this is a hair test, which I'm assuming, they say here copper, magnesium, and zinc were decreased, and cobalt demonstrated no change. Cobalt's a toxic metal, folks. You don't want that. Copper, magnesium, and zinc are decreased. Well, copper and zinc, hair test copper, don't rely on it at all. We use it. I use it. But I'm one of the few people out there looking at it in both blood and hair. Copper and zinc on a hair test, like when somebody's not well, copper and zinc move up and down together. So if you have low zinc, you're going to see low copper. And as we fix the zinc, some of you might have seen my Twitter post the other day where over a 6-month period, I was supplementing a woman with zinc. And her what was it? Her starting zinc was like 49, which is about half of where the minimum of where I want it. And her starting copper was 75. So get this. This is the BS of people saying that taking zinc will deplete your copper and you got to take copper with it. No, her starting zinc was 49, half of my minimum. And her starting copper was 75, which is still, that's very normal. But just listen to what happens. She takes 30 milligrams of zinc picolinate a day in my Keystone Minerals. 6 months later, her copper's 150, way high, and her zinc is like 90 4. See how they went up together? They almost doubled together. Zinc went from 49 to like 94, 96, and copper went from 74 to 150. Weird that they moved together. Dr. Smith, where do you see these patterns? I watch them every day. I am gifted with pattern recognition. That's what God blessed me with. But to say that zinc makes... So where was that copper coming from? It wasn't coming from her diet. We don't purposely push copper in a diet. It was coming out of her liver. The zinc was kicking it out of her liver. And the same thing will happen on hair tests with zinc and copper. These people were just low, but they noticed that they were low in zinc and magnesium, which we already went over. Okay, let's do this other one. Association of headaches and the metals. Low ionized magnesium, so low magnesium, and high ionized calcium-to-magnesium ratio. Those of you who have worked with Nathan or I, the most important thing we work on is the calcium-to-magnesium ratio. So if you're working with hair test people who are obsessing over your calcium level or obsessing over your magnesium level on their own by themselves, no, you focus on the calcium to magnesium ratio. And what do most people need to do? They need to increase their magnesium, which makes sense here, right? If you see low magnesium and a high calcium to magnesium ratio, what could you fix both of those with? You improve their magnesium. Anyway, in patients with daily migrainous headaches were noticed. Low magnesium, high calcium to magnesium ratio were noted in daily migraine people. Daily. Headache is also a symptom of the common cold for which zinc may be an effective therapy. Did I forget this other link again? I'm sorry, I'm all fired up this morning. When am I not fired up doing this stuff? And then we come down here. Headache was also found to be associated with toxic metals. When the health effects of mercury were investigated, the most frequently observed symptom was cephalalgia. That's headache. Pain in the head, a headache. Continuous exposure to lead was concomitant with the appearance of symptoms such as headache. And if you wanted to, we can just go do, cadmium, headache, PubMed. This is like, cadmium and headaches is very, exposure to, just cadmium and headaches. You can find it. It's out there. So yes, toxic metals are bad. What's the best way to fix your toxic metals? Stop exposing yourself to them. You know where people are getting, when I see hair tests on cadmium and mercury in people today, when it shows up in them, it's coming from fish and shellfish. What do we generally tell people not to eat? Fish and shellfish. And you want to know what happens on their hair test? Their cadmium and mercury both come down. And then we give them the most important things to detox cadmium and mercury, which are zinc and selenium. It's amazing how this works. It all just works together. Oh, and just, I did this last one. This last one's special for you, Kelsey. I know Kelsey. I think Kelsey's here. I found this one. I could not go over this one. Headache caused by pesticides, a review of the literature. Dun, dun, dun. Pesticide. Wait. Headache makes one of the most common side effects of frequently pesticide application, not native English speakers. This is to be taken care of in rural areas. Headaches have been reported with the use of ivermectin diethylcarbamazine, and copper sulfate. Wait. This is a paper about pesticides. Pesticides? Ivermectin? Ivermectin's a pesticide? Yes. You can take, I posted these papers on, I think Kelsey may have talked about these. I posted these on Twitter. You can take ivermectin and kill mosquitoes that suck your blood. with how much pesticide, even though you don't absorb very much of the ivermectin, enough of it goes into your blood and is in your blood that mosquitoes and bed bugs that feed on you die. It's a pesticide. You can look up ivermectin and pesticide on PubMed. It's in the title of papers. Copper sulfate's a pesticide. Let's just go over the pesticide stuff. Since we're talking about ivermectin and copper, numerous symptoms accompanying headache. Wow. They're just saying there are numerous symptoms accompanying headache. So headache is a common thing of toxicity exposure. In pesticide poisoning, the most common being elevated body temperature, lassitude, dizziness, irritability, nausea, vomiting. What's that, bile? Huh? Epigastric pain, diarrhea, myalgia, that's muscle pain, pain in the arms and legs, sleepiness, pains in joints, irritation of eyes, face, skin, sweating. Much less common are respiratory disturbances, tachycardia, tachypnea, and other cardiac disturbances, fall of blood pressure, gastrointestinal discomforts, constipation, poor appetite, significant decrease in leukocyte count, anemia, albuminuria, azotemia, fasciculations, that's your muscles twitching, meiosis, blurred vision, memory disturbances, and other neurologic disturbances, postural tremor, signs of cerebral function damage, bradykinesia, etc. Wow, that ivermectin. There are people out there saying ivermectin is safer than water or as safe as water. These people are either paid trolls or they are the most believing in propaganda that you've ever seen in your life. You have people out there with bags of copper sulfate thinking they're revolutionary and that's bioavailable. And then I post on Twitter about copper intake of bioavailable copper from food causing dementia and Alzheimer's. Okay, copper is a toxic metal. Treat it that way. You don't have to avoid all of it. You can't avoid all of it. But sure don't encourage it. Okay? But what would pesticides damage the most, folks? Your liver. What do we deal with here? Why are we on the Love Your Liver live stream? There's a reason. It all comes back to your liver. So we got that. So that's the headache presentation for today. Kelsey and I are discussing doing mainly her presentation. The Kelsey Kenny, yes, her presentation on PGP, P-glycoprotein, and how that gets in the way of there's things that you can take that are being recommended for the virus problem that slow down your detox by the alternative people. She's going to cover that. She's going to cover MDR1 gene. I'm going to do my little add-on, but it's mainly going to be her presentation. We're going to do another special episode very soon, and that's exciting. So yeah, it's going to be fun. So let me go into the chat now. Now that we're an hour and 10 minutes in, I have about 50 minutes to go over more stuff. And let me turn off my other screen. Oh my gosh. So many lights in here. Okay, so we do super chats first. And let me see. We got a couple of them. Well, I'm just going to hit Eric's question real quick because it's so fast. Eric Crone, thank you for the super chat, says, does fiber outweigh fructose concerns in apples? Yes. If you have not seen, I did an entire live stream about how apples are the healthiest fruit, and that's shown multiple times in the literature. All the high antioxidant fruit garbage out there, it's garbage. Apples are king. Yes, the pectin, the soluble fiber in apples, outweighs it. Now, I will tell you that eating too many apples, I think it's maybe too much malic acid, but it can lead you into loose bowels. But most people are never going to eat that many apples in a day. The other thing that I talk about in the program is I talk about methanol production and formaldehyde production by pectin. So this is very important that you listen to this very, very carefully. Foods that contain a lot of pectin, like let's say apples, that are cooked and put into airtight jars, like your store-bought applesauce. Am I talking about homemade applesauce? No, I'm talking about store-bought applesauce. I'm talking about canned apple, whatever. If it is cooked and put inside, especially if it's cooked inside an aseptic, an airtight container, it will produce formaldehyde. The pectin can actually break down into formaldehyde, but there's two key things for that to have to happen. Cooking, airtight container where it sits for a long time. I don't recommend canned applesauce, jarred applesauce. If you want to make fresh stuff at home where you're not putting it in an airtight container for a long time, great. But if you ever notice, I used to always notice why my body never liked applesauce from the store in the glass container. You know, we're getting glass containers and all that stuff, and I just never felt right with it. And I never felt right with really ripe bananas. Well, really, really ripe bananas and applesauce make formaldehyde. And I just never felt good on it. So that's why I don't eat that. So, but does the fiber in fresh apples or homemade apple stuff, the pectin, yes, it's better. It's worth the fructose. I never said we had to avoid fructose completely. Everything in this world is dose dependent. If it's not good for you, the more you get, the more problem, and vice versa. So, okay, back to Eve's question. Any tips on body pain? It's my big detox symptom. Well, so then you just answered your question. If you're detoxing and you get the symptoms, if you push detox too hard, the way to bring it down is less. So you said, I cut soluble fiber 2 days ago, doing mineral baths. The pain is especially in the right shoulder blade, which is very much the liver. We've had multiple people, I'm just going to throw this out there. We've had multiple people fix their chronic right shoulder pain on the low vitamin A detox. Multiple people. They went to doctor after doctor and orthopod after orthopod and massages and whatever, and nothing fixed it. And then as they fixed their liver, their right shoulder pain went away, which is connected to the scapular pain and all that stuff, shoulder blade. Okay. You need to mop up bile, but the activated charcoal is constipating. I need a full body activated charcoal wrap. Now you can do a bath. You can do a bath and sit in there. Baths are messy. Feeling crappy sucks too. So, you know, but you can do activated charcoal in a bath. You can also do colloidal. Well, you can grind up oats really fine. Like when you're thinking colloidal oatmeal, it's a soluble fiber and you can soak stuff through the skin. Why do you think, you know, they make colloidal oatmeal lotions for baby diaper rash and stuff like that and babies? Colloidal oatmeal soaks up toxins through your skin just like charcoal does. So if you do well on one or the other, you can go and look up oatmeal baths for eczema. What does soluble fiber soak up? Bile and vitamin A. So if you don't want to do charcoal, I mean, obviously, if you're going to be putting oats in your bath, you better grind them up real well. But you can do charcoal. You can do charcoal lotion. You could cover tons of your body with that. Charcoal lotion, the recipe, 1 teaspoon of charcoal. I'm sorry, 1 teaspoon of lotion. Any lotion, I don't care. Don't ask me what's the magical optimal lotion. I don't care. I don't have time. That's one of those questions. I don't have time for that. I'm way past that. Teaspoon of lotion mixed with a 1/2 teaspoon to 3/4 of a teaspoon of charcoal. Mash it all together. Put it on the area. It needs to at least be. It needs to be thick enough that it's black on the area, not gray. If it's gray, you've smeared it too thin. So, hot baths will cause you to dump more bile. So if you are doing your baths as hot as you can, you are going to sweat and dump more bile because you're raising your body temperature. You're like creating an artificial fever. This is the issue with saunas and steam rooms with people who are really toxic. Those of you who have overdone them know you go and you do them too long or too hot and you feel worse afterwards because you dumped too much toxic bile and it leaked into your system. So you need to make sure that any baths you're doing or showers or whatever are not too hot because heat is an agitator, a bile dumper. It's not that that's bad. It's that if you overdo it, it's just like exercise, right? If you go and you exercise too much, you're either not going to want to exercise for, 3 or 4 days or a week after that because you overdid it or you hurt yourself. Same thing with dumping bile. Like you need to exercise to be healthy. You need to get rid of bile. But overdoing them just sets you back. Don't do that. So cutting soluble fiber can help. You need to know, some people notice, like Will notices that the more soluble fiber he does, the better he feels. And there's some people with charcoal who they take it and they say they actually poop better with charcoal. So you have to watch these things. This is what we talk about in the program, is that there's principles, but like activated charcoal in people who are not getting enough bile. So here's what we could say about you. So if you tend towards constipation, and activated charcoal very easily constipates you, you don't have enough bile in your guts. And if you're saying you got body pain, too much of your bile is going back into your blood and causing this body pain. So we want to stop the bile dumping or slow it down. Here's what we're trying to do. We're trying to not agitate it. That's the thing. We're not trying to aggravate it. Your body is dumping. We know this. We need to not make it worse. So the things that people can do when you're in this situation, one of the easy tricks, I'm not saying this is the greatest trick, but if you know there were foods that you did before all of this, your like comfort foods, that when you were really stressed or feeling terrible, maybe you knew they weren't good for you, but they made you feel better. Those are things that can slow down your bile dumping. That's why you felt better with them before, even though you knew they weren't good for you. So there's that. But yeah, the big thing, don't make your bath too hot. That'll aggravate it. If you can, take charcoal or you could, some people do it for migraines. Actually, for those of you listening to this because of headaches, I've had multiple people tell me that doing a coffee enema when they have a migraine coming on will get rid of it within an hour or two. What does a coffee enema do? You put a bitter liquid up there. Bitter triggers bile dumping. And then you dump bile, and then what does an enema tend to cause? It tends to cause loose bowels, like diarrhea. I don't like this light. I got to figure out how to do this lighting different. Anyway, whatever. So, actually, I'll put one more on there. Okay. So, that's what I got. I mean, if there was other stuff, potassium is always a big one. We talk about potassium a lot here. Topical magnesium, if you want to do it again, where you're not just doing the bath, you could do that. Yeah. If you were working, if we're working on, minerals, zinc, selenium, molybdenum, that kind of stuff, sometimes that stuff can relieve it. Sometimes it doesn't, but that's stuff that I would work on in my office hours. It's kind of beyond YouTube live stream because it's a little dangerous for me to give random advice here that people take and run with and do maybe not the brightest things with. So, but yeah, that's what I got. Just don't aggravate it. So search agitators in the network. Make sure you're not agitating it. And then it can take the liver a couple days to clean up the excess bile in the blood while you're trying not to agitate it. So that's what I got. Okay. Any more super chats? No more super chats. Let me. Oh, I saw eye migraines. I just saw somebody say eye migraines can happen without headaches. My biggest symptom when I was in, let's say, in college and a bit after, where I was still consuming an excess of alcohol, as in binge drinking. My biggest hangover symptom was the headache in my eyes, the headache behind the eyes. So yeah, and that's acetaldehyde, right? You're taking an alcohol, ethanol, it turns into acetaldehyde. If you have a slow ALDH, which we go over a lot here, you can't process the acetaldehyde, you build it up. And that was my symptom. So yeah. Let's see. So you were doing Ramones. I think I saw one. Okay, there it was, Ramon. Okay. This is a this is an interesting question from Ramon. I'm going to give you guys. Okay. Ramon's question: what's your opinion on cold showers and ice baths or an ice plunge, especially during winter? What's the mechanism behind the reported benefits? Who could do it? Well, this is complex. We're going to put it into toxic bile theory. So there are people out there doing the Wim Hof method. Okay, so let me preface this before anybody tries to say that I'm not educated in it. I've done lots of cold plunges. I used to have a above ground pool in the backyard, and I would start going into it at the start of the winter because right here in Tucson, Arizona, in summer it's a hot plunge. It's not cool. But the coldest I went into it was, I think it was 42 degrees in the pool, and I think I was in there. I think the most I ever did at that temperature. At that temperature, I did 5 minutes. I'm not bragging or anything. I'm just saying I've done it. That's all. And I was doing some of the Wim Hof. Sometimes I did the Wim Hof breathing beforehand and some of the push-ups, and sometimes I didn't. Sometimes I would just go right in. And I'm getting back into a little bit of the cold shower thing right now, but it's still not that cold. Do I like cold exposure, especially during the wintertime? Do I like it? I like it because the mental toughness and the ability to relax when you are under stress, like when you're doing cold exposure regularly, it takes a lot more to stress you out. Okay, so it takes a lot more to stress you out. So think about that in terms of your liver and your bile. So you're more relaxed and it takes more to stress you out. Now, I have a buddy in town. He's probably going to watch this live stream later and he'll probably send me a text. He knows who he is. I have a buddy in town who started doing ice baths. And he's lost a lot of weight. And I don't think he really changed much else in his routine. And he said his inflammation's going down. So he's losing weight and his inflammation's going down. So what is the cold exposure doing? How could it do that fast? And the Wim Hof people talk about autoimmune conditions going away until people stop doing the cold plunges. And then they come back. They're not any better once they stop the cold plunges. So what did we shut down? Feeling more relaxed and more resilient to stress. I've talked about the Chinese medicine. The liver is the seat of anger and frustration. So if all of a sudden the anger and frustration seems to go away or get better, what did we affect? We affected the liver. I've talked on this live stream about the connections between bile in the blood and obesity, and copper in the blood and obesity, and vitamin A in the blood and obesity. So if somebody was to suddenly start dropping weight, what did we probably change in the blood? Less bile, maybe? And then you have people saying their autoimmune conditions get better. What have we talked about that here? It's toxicity in the blood. And we talk about heat will increase bile dumping. Logically, what then do we come to? What then can cold exposure decrease? Bile dumping. So then could your mental state, your weight loss, your joint pains, your autoimmune conditions, could they all get better when you do regular cold exposure? Yes. What's the other thing that the Wim Hof breathing does? If you've ever done Wim Hof breathing, and you see people do the basic Wim Hof breathing, that is a very stress breathing. It's very it's stress hormone inducing. And even Wim Hof, they've done research on Wim Hof and shown that it increases your norepinephrine, your noradrenaline. It increases the adrenaline basically in your blood. When people are full of adrenaline, does their pain tolerance go up? Can they handle more pain? Yes. And also, it's likely stimulating cortisol production. So what happens when you have more cortisol? Well, what do doctors give you cortisol for? To decrease your inflammation? So if you do a bunch of breathing that increases your cortisol and increases your adrenaline, do you see how that could make you feel less inflamed and feel better? And then you use that adrenaline and cortisol to then go into the cold water and you don't feel it as much because you're all hopped up on your own cortisol and adrenaline. And then you slow down your bile production, your bile flow, and then all of a sudden you're happier, you're losing weight, your joints don't hurt, your autoimmune condition gets better until you stop doing it. And then release the flood. It's all coming back because that whole time you were not getting rid of your bile, you're getting more toxic. So, I'm doing very short right now. I'm getting into it again. I'm doing short cold showers. But am I fooling myself about what it's doing? No, I'm not fooling myself about what it's doing at all. Do I like the mental benefit of it? Yeah. You just feel like you do cold. When you go out and you purposely do cold exposure to make yourself uncomfortable, and you learn how to, as one father said to me, he said he makes his kids go in the cold pool in the winter and he makes them stay in there until, I love this, he makes them stay in there until they can control their breathing. That's all the length of time he makes them stay in there. Because, like when you go and and you're freaking out because it's cold. But once you get your breath under control, then he lets them out. And I was like, that's brilliant, because the better you get at it, the less time you have to spend in it, according to his approach. But when you go and you make yourself uncomfortable like that on purpose, and you learn how to relax while you're stressed and uncomfortable, that, I don't know, it gives you this, you feel like you kick ass. You feel tougher than you used to. And then you tell other people you do it and they're like, I could never do that. And then, you get a little ego boost. Sure. Why not? So can it be productive? Yes. Does it make you, when you go out in the cold here? I remember there was the holiday, the Christmas light show at one place here in town. It's a walking thing. And I was out there in shorts and just a long sleeve cotton t-shirt, and people are looking at me like I'm crazy. And this was when I was doing the regular cold exposure. They're like, aren't you cold? And I said, nah, I got my beanie on. It still gets plenty cold here on certain nights, especially around the holidays. So that's the mechanism behind the reported benefits. That's why none of it sticks. As soon as you stop doing the cold exposure, all the problems come back, and maybe even worse. So it's kind of habit forming if you want. If you want it to work to continue suppressing your problems, you have to keep doing it. That's what we got. Who can do it? I mean, I had one guy, I know Jack Cruz pushes the ice baths and all that stuff. I'm going to put it this way. Most of you live in colder areas than I do. Tucson just started to cool off. I've always found that when I start doing it at the start of when it cools off, then you have the time to adapt. You have both the time and the temperature's not as cold. And so as you do it more, it's slowly getting colder and it's easier to adapt to because you just have longer to do it. It'll get plenty cold here. There's just time to adapt. I'm actually, some of you may like this. I'm doing there's an app that I got called Mental, MEN. It's mainly for men. It's about men's mental resilience and health. And they actually do a cold shower buildup and all that stuff in there, where you're learning different breathing techniques And one of the things they have you do, one of the breathing techniques before the cold water hits, is this like big inhale and then a grunt out. And they're like, you're trying to get your adrenaline going. They're like, this will give you a quick boost of energy. I'm like, that's called adrenaline. Like, you're just medicating yourself with adrenaline. But, you know, as long as you know what you're doing, I mean, as long as you accept what and you understand what you're doing, can you do it? If you're really out there, if you're really hypothyroid and you just feel cold all the time, you probably don't want to do cold exposure, because you're going to freeze your ass off because you're already cold. Okay? But if you're in a decent state of health and you want to do it for, you know, the benefits that you can get from it, feeling better is worth what? I mean, less mental stress because you feel tougher is worth what? So that's what we got. Okay. Zendog's asking, please add tinnitus to this for a friend. Didn't I cover tinnitus? Okay. I swear I've covered tinnitus before, but I believe there are two main types of tinnitus that people don't talk about. One of them they don't talk about for sure. Tinnitus can be mechanical in nature, where it's like the sound pressure, the sound waves actually break those little hairs in your ear, where it's actually like damage from the sound. Okay, like the guys in the military suing over the earplugs, right? That's sound. Then there's chemical tinnitus, where the people who have this will notice that as they're more and less toxic over time, they'll notice that they can have tinnitus or not. Tinnitus that comes and goes, not just environment, not just how much noise is in your environment, but if you actually, like, I can say, one of the symptoms that I have when I know I'm having a big bile dump, or I know there's something going on, like space weather wise or whatever, when I wake up in the middle of the night, so those of you who follow here know, when you have a bile dump in the middle of the night, you wake up. You're usually hot and you're just up. Well, I know when I have a big one of those, I wake up and I'll hear the little ringing. And then the next day, after everything calms down, it's gone again. So that's a chemical tinnitus. So, the big thing is mechanical tinnitus. I don't know that can be fixed. So for those of you who like to go to, rock concerts and raves and stuff, and you cause permanent hearing damage and you have tinnitus, I don't know that can be fixed. Those hairs don't seem to fix themselves. So do your best to not get exposed to high volume stuff. There's been a couple times I go to like the shotgun clay range and I forget to put my ear protection on, and all of a sudden you hear that first shot and there's this snap that you hear, and I go, oh, dang it, got to put my ear pro on. Yeah, when you hear a real gunshot pretty close, it's loud. It's loud. And they talk about if you're ever in a real firefight, you may actually you're going to get some hearing damage because these are going to be very close to your ears. Anyway, so chemical. There was, let me see if I can find it. Maybe I'll turn on my, oh, there it is. There it is. Thank you. Thank you, Pierre. Pierre's so helpful. Zendog, Pierre actually did tinnitus. He put up the live stream 51. Love Your Liver live stream 51. I went over tinnitus. So I cut B12 is sometimes a temporary fix for tinnitus. And then you can see the video I did on this channel of how vitamin A depletes B12 and vitamin A depletes B12 and their B12 can help tinnitus. You're not going to find much. Wait, let me see what Will's saying there. Oh, Will says my tinnitus and blepharitis is not mechanical. It's biliary. Yeah. So let me see. You don't need to show this yet, Joe. I'm just going to see if I can find anything. anything that they can connect. They don't look for tinnitus systemically. Like, they don't think that it's related to anything. I mean, it's just hearing damage, or they're just like, we don't know. Okay, Will was saying, oh man, let me tell you, I rode my motorcycle in 55 degrees and had huge bile dumping symptoms for a full day after. Yeah, so this is why. So yes, this is the two things about cold exposure. Okay. Mental stress is a trigger for bile dumping. Can cold be a huge mental stress? Yes. So and I used to remember when I would do the cold plunges and stuff, I would get out of the pool, and then, 15 minutes, a half hour later, one of my symptoms where my bile hits me the hardest is the kidneys, because that's leaking bile, right? This was 2 or 3 years ago. This was before I got divorced. So yeah, it's definitely years ago. But my lower back would get really stiff and sore after I would do the pool, which can be a bile dump. You can have different triggers. So as you adapt to the cold, right, as you get used to it and it becomes less of a stress, it's not as much of a bile dump, and then you can do the cold and suppress it more. I think I found a paper on temperature and bile dumping. But when you're first doing it, and you're, oh my God, it's so cold, and you're sitting in the water shaking, or you get to the point where you're like, your teeth are chattering and your body's going, this is too cold. That can be, so you can have different impacts, right? You could have, let's say it's really hot out and you're getting stressed because you're freaking out because it's really hot out. Then you could have like a double whammy of bile dumping from the heat and bile dumping from the stress. So yeah, especially, well, that's actually, let's get into that while we're here. I do believe, so why did, then people will go, well, why does everybody get sick if getting sick is a bile dump? Big bile dump. Why does everybody get sick at the start of winter? We're going to get into the duration paradox idea here. For those of you who don't understand, the duration paradox is that a short-term effect can often be the opposite of a long-term effect. The biggest example I give people is coffee. At the start, coffee gives you energy, right? And the people who you watch who drink more and more coffee and drink it longer and longer, what does their energy do? They need more and more coffee, and they have less and less energy to be normal. So that's an example of the duration paradox. Same thing with cell studies. Cell studies often show, like with vitamin A, they'll do cell studies on vitamin A, and it makes everything looks great in the cell study. And then you look at it in real people over long term, and it's a disaster. That's duration paradox. So it can be cell studies for cell versus humans, or short term versus long term. They can be completely opposite. Okay. So could bile dumping have different time-based responses? Think about this. Let's say your body, we assume that your body was well designed, divinely designed, if you will. And it would know, let's say your body knows that when the cold season comes around, your bile production is going to go down for months and months. And if your body says, we're not going to have much of a chance to get rid of bile because it's going to slow down for months, we better, when it feels the cold come, or as those of you who know Chinese medicine, wind cold, like you get exposed to a cold wind, and all of a sudden you get sick. So imagine if your body was intelligent, it says, we're going to have months and months of reduced bile dumping and reduced detox. When we feel the season change, we have one last chance to dump a bunch of bile. And it does, and you get sick. Will went riding in cold temperatures, and then he had a huge bile dump the next day. You see what I'm talking about? So your body can be tricked. Your body doesn't necessarily know. Like if all of a sudden it's summertime where you're at, and then you go and you sit in a room where you have the air conditioner blowing on you, could your body say, oh no, winter's starting right today? we better have a big bile dump. Then you have the wind cold of the Chinese medicine and you get sick. Okay? So yes, you can have short-term effects versus long-term effects in terms of bile. So let's see. Was there anything else? Okay, I see yours. Well, we'll get to yours in a second. Thank you, everybody, for the super chats so far. Yeah, I got time. And then Zendog, I think if Pierre might be able to help you with it with the inner Zendog's in the inner circle too. I think we've covered tinnitus in the inner circle before too. And it might have even been your question, so that there might be stuff in there. Will's asking me for my thoughts on one of his Twitter posts. We can share this. Let's see. Yeah, you can share this, my second screen, or do I need to do it again? There we go. Let me make this bigger. Okay, so this is Will posting. He says, I get occasional smells / feelings, ambiguous general sensory condition coming to the surface that I've not smelled for quite some time. Some smells in particular can be traced back to a very specific point in time. Just had a smell from when I was 15 at a Hobbytown, USA, trying out Warhammer for the first time. Either I mobilized something that old out of adipose, neurons simply fired in the same sequence to reproduce the feeling, or I've detoxed enough to reach that far back into my toxicity profile. Previous momentary smells / feelings about 2 weeks ago were from a time when I was roughly 18 to 22, so it's possible that I'm about halfway done detoxing. 15 years worth left to go. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, this is okay. So this goes into my theory of retracing and toxic layers of bile. So this is a concept, some people out there who don't understand toxic bile theory or don't want to believe it won't accept, and that's fine. You can stay sick. Will's getting better. So I believe that as we are truly detoxing, so if those of you aren't familiar with retracing, or some people call it unwinding, or a healing crisis, it's an idea that as you are truly healing, which for us is usually digging backwards through toxicity layers. As you are truly healing, you can have old symptoms come up out of nowhere. And so think of it as, let's say you started at point A, which is where you were healthier as a kid, let's say. And you travel along the road to point B, which is where, let's say this is where you're at now, and this is unhealthy, not as healthy as you want to be. Along that way, you had to pass, let's say, point A, which was some sickness that you had. Or let's even say in Will's case, it was some smell that he came across, or whatever. Something happened along the way. So from healthy, did I do this right? To unhealthy, just think of it as one of them healthy. We're going to say this one's healthy and this one's unhealthy. And along the way, you had a symptom. Let's say that was a health issue that went away. Let's say it came and it was there for whatever period of time, and then it went away. And now you're unhealthy. As you want to come back from unhealthy to healthy, you're going to pass that landmark. That landmark is the health issue, or in Will's case, could it be a feeling or something that is trapped in the tissues, along with all the toxicity. Okay. Wait, so Will's adding something. Let me see this. He says, to go along with that post, I'm also getting some similar mental fight or flight, very similar to what I had as a teen as well. Stuff I've not felt in decades. Yes. So this is, I'm okay with some woo. Like people will say, well, this is woo, and it's like energetics, like certain energy patterns or mental brainwave patterns or psychiatric, patterns. These things can all happen together. Nature and nurture go together. I'm going to tell, like, as an example, like, how do you poison a population? Well, you poison them chemically, and then you poison them with ideas. That's how you do it best. Like I always tell people, I'd be an amazing criminal mastermind, because why not do it from multiple angles, right? Poison them mentally with ideas and poison them chemically. What I believe the chemical poisoning does, as an example, is it makes men more like women and women more like men. And then you throw in all the programming of feminism and all that stuff. And then you wonder why everybody's so messed up, because they've been chemically poisoned and mentally poisoned. So can we, as we fix, you ever see people, like maybe it's yourself, maybe it's your friends, where they have the same mental problems come up over and over and over again. They're almost like, I don't even know what brings it up. Maybe it's not your thought patterns that bring it up. Maybe it's the toxicity that brings it up, right? You're just ruminating on the toxicity, and so the toxicity comes into your brain, and then your brain is just like, I am in this mood. I must find something to ruminate on, to be anxious about, to be angry about. So the toxicity can create the mental state, but the mental state will also keep the toxicity in. So if Will is detoxing and going back through, so on that pathway, coming back, you pass the landmark. So people who are truly healing, this is where you need to not fool yourself. Because, okay, as an example, I had a woman, she was working with the biggest name in nutritional balancing, HTMA nutritional balancing, the biggest name. I'm not going to say his name. Tons of garbage ideas in hair analysis have been propagated by this guy. Garbage. He's not well mentally. Weird, because he loves vitamin A and vegetables. You know what his solution is if you're feeling bad? Eat more high vitamin A vegetables. I'm going to tell you guys, almost all the health gurus out there go insane. They go insane. Happens to all of them. I don't know why. Maybe it's because they all think vitamin A is good and copper is good. Anyway, he had a female client who eventually came to me to tell me this story. She worked with him for 3 years. In 3 years, she only got worse. She only got worse. What were the excuses? And why I say excuses, because this is an excuse. You're just detoxing. You're just retracing. You're just detoxing. You're just retracing. Eat more vegetables. Eat less carbs. She almost lost her marriage over it, because her husband was like, you're going crazy. When she came to me, I was like, yeah, that's BS. Like retracing, let me tell you what retracing looks like. Retracing is an old symptom that you had before, usually that came and went away. And now as you're getting better and you're noticing you have to be noticing improvements. If you're not generally improving, it's not retracing. Usually people are noticing their energy improving and other things like that. So if your energy is improving, what do you have more energy to do? What does your body have more energy to do? Clean up the old garbage. Does that make sense? Right? When you have more energy, it's easier to do spring cleaning and stuff like that. So your body has more energy and you start noticing overall symptoms are improving. And then you have an old symptom out of nowhere come up. And you go, wait, first you're a little confused. You're like, wait, I'm getting better. Why do I have an old symptom coming back up? This doesn't make any sense. Here's the key things to recognize retracing. It's an old symptom you've had before. It's not as intense this time as it was before. It comes up for no reason that you can think of. It's not something like you push detox too hard or it's like out of the blue. So here's a key thing. The things that you used to do to medicate it or to help relieve the symptoms hardly work. You're going, but I used to take a magnesium bath, or I used to do this other stuff to make it go away, to help the symptom go away. And you're like, I tried them again and they don't work. Or maybe they work 10% as well as they used to. So it comes up out of nowhere. It's an old symptom that came back then and then went away, but now it's back again. Comes up for no good reason. It's not as intense as it was before. And the things that you used to use to relieve the symptom are not working. And the last thing, your mental state around it is not as fearful. You're not, like when you first got this symptom, you're like, holy crap, what is happening to my health? It's falling apart. This is not good. And now you're kind of just like, because you're already getting healthier, your brain's in a better state. You're not as toxic, and you go, this is weird. What's going on? You're more like inquisitive about it. Kind of like Will posting his stuff. He's more inquisitive about it. And then it goes away. This is the biggest key thing. It's not there for that long. I'm not going to say how long it is. It could be a couple days. It could be a couple weeks. But it goes away, and then you reach a new state of health after that because you just got rid of that toxic pattern. Okay, now what do I believe is actually going on? The physical part of what's actually going on. This is a picture for your mind because it'd be really hard to imagine like layers of toxicity inside of liver cells, right? But if you think of it as layers of toxicity, okay? So like the most recent layer is at the top and the deepest layer is at the bottom. So you just got layers of toxicity that go along with different health condition disease patterns in your life. So what goes away usually the first thing as you start detoxing and you're going down through the layers, you're digging down through the layers and you're clearing out the layers of toxicity. Usually the most recent things that you have that came on go away first because that's the top layer of toxicity. You dig through that, you get rid of that first. And then you go down and you go down. And then sometimes you'll see an old health pattern show up, disease pattern. My very first experience with this was when I first got into hair analysis, and I was doing my own hair analysis based on what I knew and what I figured out. And all of a sudden, like I had athlete's foot 2 times as a kid from being in I went to basketball camp at the university and they had the dorm showers. And I thought I just ignored the whole thing about everybody wearing sandals in the showers. I just went barefoot in the showers and I got athlete's foot, right? So had athlete's foot twice as a kid. And then as an adult, I'm doing the hair analysis and I'm taking my minerals and I start feeling my big toe itch. And I thought, I didn't know about retracing. I was like, am I getting athlete's foot again? This is really weird. I'm going to what do I do? I didn't have anybody like me to tell me it's going to be okay. Just keep doing what you're doing. So I just didn't do anything. I said, I'm just going to watch and wait. I'm just going to leave it alone. And it started, I actually got a little pin, like a pinhead size red thing. So there's actually a physical manifestation of something on my foot where I'd had athlete's foot before. I just left it alone. It went away. And then about a week later, I got the same symptom on the other foot. And then I just left that alone. That went away. And it was only after that was done, usually retracing, you figured out when it's gone, once it's passed. And then I went, after the second one had passed, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the retracing they were talking about. Like this is the old symptom coming back and then going away. So that's like one of my easy examples of retracing, going away and coming back. So that is, I haven't heard too much about the smells, the feelings. Yeah, the feelings absolutely can be going along with the retracing. I haven't heard about the smells, but I mean, like when people have copper toxicity, right? They'll get like a copper taste in their mouth. It's, people who are toxic in mercury get a metallic taste in their mouth. Sometimes people with iron toxicity get a metallic taste in their mouth. Obviously, 90% of your sense of taste is a sense of smell. So if it's something in your nose, I don't know if I've shown you that copper toxicity and cadmium toxicity can cause a loss of a sense of smell. It's in fish studies. Okay. So if, let's say, Will, that Will believes he's very copper toxic, based on his history of his house with copper water pipes and all of that stuff. So if, let's just say, we were detoxing copper out of your nasal nerves, your olfactory nerves, your smell nerves, and all of a sudden they're coming back online, and then you're having these retracing things too, which is probably all connected, right? Because we get rid of copper through the bile, and we dig back through the copper layers, the bile layers. Then we could have this sense of, I mean, could whatever the smell is be in the layers of the bile? I mean, why not? I don't know. It's possible. So yeah, you could be fixing your olfactory nerves by detoxing it, and then there's a certain toxicity that came along, or smell that goes along with it, and then you smell it, and there's all these patterns along with it. So sure, why not? That's what I got on that. But yeah. Yeah, it could be out of adipose, could be out of your liver, could be stuff. I mean, smells obviously go along. Smells and our brain are very connected, as you know, to memories and patterns like that. So who knows? Could it even be that you're detoxing and then all of a sudden the mental pattern comes back? And then, so if we say, if smells can bring back memories, let's say as you're detoxing, could some weird toxic bile pattern recreate a smell in your brain? I don't know. Maybe. So, I'm just saying, could the smell have been recreated as part of that pattern? Who knows? Maybe. As long as you're getting better. So a lot of people come here and they want me to have distinct mechanisms on all these fancy things. And I go, I don't care that much about the mechanisms. I only care about getting people better. Like, I don't need to know, do I know the 200 enzymes pathways that zinc is involved in the body? No, I don't know that. I could waste years learning all of those, and it wouldn't move me any closer than knowing that pretty much everybody's zinc deficient. And you need zinc. It's essential. People can take too much zinc and not feel good. So they got to take the right amount of zinc, and they got to take the right type of zinc. But do I need to know the 200 enzyme pathways? No, I don't need to know that at all. It doesn't help. It doesn't advance getting people better. So, yeah, Will was saying that the smell, Zendog said smells are notorious for triggering serious memories, vice versa too. And then Will said that's why he's able to pinpoint the time of the dump. Yes, absolutely. So, hope that worked for you, Will. I think that's all the super chats. Sorry I didn't get to anybody else. But that's what we got. So I'm going to wrap it up here. I'm actually going to wrap it up on time today. I have 1 minute. All of my information is down in the video info below this. All the social media information, all that stuff. You can find the website, nutritiondetective.com, the Love Your Liver program, which is a do-it-yourself program, at members.nutritiondetective.com. We got tons of people there who can help you. Nathan and I do the consultations. And yeah, I'm going to go do the Inner Circle now, which is a private group where people, it's $50 a month. And I do a private chat there where people can ask as many questions as they want a month to me. And then there's the Advanced Detox program, which is a month later, where you can watch the same videos. You just don't get to ask questions, but that's all inside the Love Your Liver network. So hope you all enjoyed this. Hope it didn't cause you any headaches to think about. And yeah, again, we're just connecting toxic bile theory to all these toxicities and deficiencies and getting people better. So see you all next week. Have a great day. Bye now.